Alright, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Console Training's video on the LH Showcase and Q&A stream. My name is Alex Hughes and I'm going to give you a quick rundown just before we start. So basically we're going through all listed 5 versions that are now available online, which is the CE, which is also the one that we're giving away in a giveaway slightly later in the stream, the CE2, the Media Edition, Trace, and the Ultimate Edition. So they've all got their own unique price points, and we're going to start not at the bottom, but I reckon with quite a very competitive product, which is the CE product. So if we punch across here, we can see a blacked out screen. Welcome to L8. So in L8 CE, you've got up to 64 fixtures. Also, hello. You've got 64 fixtures. You can put in a project. You can have up to 2 universes of SACN or ArtNet. You can do video recording. You can import 3DS, FBX. You can also do onboard DMX recording and show control. 3D textures, which we'll go through as well. And you've got the fantastic symbols library as well as mirrors. So everything that you see today in this file, and we might just go into live view for a sec to give you a tour around the file we're using. Everything you see today has been built directly in the L8 program, so using symbols, everything. Normally, personally, I draw in Vectorworks, but today we're going totally inside of the application. So we'll be loading 5 files throughout the stream. The stream will in total be roughly around about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Hopefully we'll get through each section rather quickly, because there aren't there isn't that much to show in terms of lights and stuff, but we will persist, and there's definitely a large fixture library available. So hopefully that it all sounds and looks good. Thank you very much, Christian. So let's quickly give a bit of a tour around. So right now we've got a main truss with not the world's greatest line array, but the line array has come out of the inbuilt L-Acoustics library that is inbuilt into L8, and we can see that we've got a bunch of lights and we've got a fairly basic sound and band set up here, and we can see that all of our little performers are standing on mirrors here. Across the back currently we've got 20 Sharpies and a little bit of light at the back. As well as that, we've got basically a 100-meter festival stage set up here, so we've got a nice little front of house set up. Now unfortunately there's only one model that this visualizer doesn't have, which is an MA, so the sound guys are represented by diamonds and lighting is all hog. I was very tempted to put a console training video on one of these, but that seemed a bit facetious. And then up the back we've got 2 follow spot towers, which we'll come back to. Anyway, we're not here to look at the room in full house light. We're going to begin. So we can see that the rendering quality here is reasonably good. We've obviously got full smoke and wind control, and we can even change the gamma as we want, as well as the dimmer or the dim in the room. We can change field of view, bunch of views, and if you've got a 3D mouse like we're using today, you've got a lot of control. The CE and the CE2 version don't have the DMX camera, but we'll be going back and looking at that when we reach the media thing. So let's quickly just click through our cue list. So we've got our 20 Sharpies, and let's add a bit more light in, and we'll get a bit closer to stage as well. And here we can see a couple of things. So these are 6 pointies that we've got, and the big difference that we have compared to, let's say, MA3D is that we can do a soft focus on a gobo. It's simply not a feature that is available in MA3D, and at the price point that CE is at, which is 88 euros, you're in very good hands if you invest in this. So we'll do a quick color change. We'll add in a bit of front light, and here we can see some more gobos. We'll also add in some wash from the front, and we're starting to really see the beam quality that is available. Unfortunately, due to the fact that it's we can't say the word, but we all know what time it is, where there's not much work around. Your streams are probably running in 720. If you've got the bandwidth, I'd suggest kicking it up to 1080, because we're streaming at 1080 60 Hertz and 60 FPS, and you'll really start to see the beam quality. So I can kind of punch in and we can get an idea of how good it is. And the system that we're running on isn't amazing. It's just a gaming tower with a GTX 1080 in it, so it's a couple of years old, but everything that we do today is all recorded live. There's no trickery. It's exactly as you see it, because there's no point representing a product in a false way. On top of that, we've also got blinders, so I'll turn them off, bring them back in, so we can see we've got some blinders across the front. And of course, because our artist is a bit of a drama queen, using the 2 Robert Juliet lighting models that we've got, we can even include follow spots in there. So obviously no motion in the CE version or the media version, but at least we can get some punch. On top of that, on the back, we can see that we've got some pattern 2013s, and we can see that beautiful red shift that it's available when it's at a low dimmer level. So you're getting full sort of emulation, and these lights are just beautiful. On top of that, you're limited to 64 fixtures. Now, you can space those across 2 universes, but the other thing that you can do is you can add 3D objects, such as the rings that we've added all the way around the set here, and with them, they can be above your channel count. So you can have as much of this stuff as you want, and if you wanted to build, you know, a full stage of lead tape, you definitely can do that. So if I grab all our set lead here for a sec, and I run a rainbow chase, we can see that it's all individually controlled. So I'll slow this down so that we get an idea of how much control we've got. Why don't we do a rainbow chase? And we can also see the gobos are on the mirrors, and while light can't bounce off the mirrors just yet, it is coming in a future release. What we do see is we can see the drummer behind, and we can see everything really well replicated, including the pattern 203s, or 213s rather. So let's keep going. We'll keep clicking through. So we'll colour our set again, which we've done. We've just put it in a slightly different colour. On top of this, with CE, you've got the access to 3D textures. 3D textures allow you to do really cool things. Essentially, you can DMX control them in the same way that we've controlled our LEDs that are changing colour around each little pod here. But with a bunch of 3D effects, you can play back a low fog effect. So what we've got, if I come out, and you know, a magician should never really reveal the magic, is what we've got here is we've just got a cube object with a 3D texture running over the top of it. And then we've just got a single dimmer control, so we can see that if we pull that back out, and I go back into Viz mode, we can see that we can fade that in and get some really nice low fog effects. Now if you decided that, you know, you weren't using a crappy glaciator, you could push this low fog all the way up so that it is stage height, and what we'll get is this really cool cylindrical object, or you know, square object with really heavy haze. So if we get inside it, we can see that, you know, right here we've got beautiful haze. There's also a large benefit of this. If you're rendering a really large stage and you only want the haze to appear in a certain position, you can do that here. And from a desk end, that comes in as just one desk channel. So if I grab it into my programmer right now, I can pull it in and out. Really cool, and we can clearly see the quality of the haze in there. We've got a couple of 3D options in terms of these, so I'll just grab our cuboid here. What we're using here is we're using the smoke one. We can also do sort of convection waves like this. We can run an explosion, which we can see is just sort of in the middle. Same with flames. A slightly heavier fog, and also some other really cool effects that you might need to scale out to really get the effect of, and then back to the smoke we're using. So I'll drop this back to being the low fog that it is, and we'll save. And it doesn't count to your universe count, so you can patch these in universe 50 if you want, or wherever you want. All of the 3D assets that I've just shown don't count. Only fixtures, so anything that is in the DMX section, and here we can see that we actually have 64 fixtures, counts. So anything that's in room and we're DMX controlling does not count to our fixture count, which is really handy. So before we move on, let me reiterate, the price is 88 euros list price, and we can do a full rainbow chase over everything. The other thing that I didn't mention that we can see running across the back is we've got two LED screens. Currently in this version of CE and CE2, we're not going to have any media running across them, so what we've used is just a big cyc. And the way that we've done that is we've got these Silicon Pacifics, and we've literally put a color in them and a gobo. So if I wanted to swap it out, I can put a different gobo in, or I can drop the color, and we can see that we've got that. Then we can also shutter it in just like we would on a real Pacific, and we're also getting a real preview of it. So if I had this focused on a person, I could see where I'm shuttering it. Same goes for the fixtures that are in our rig. So if I pull up our Araton Levantes here, and I pull the zoom out, and then grab our shapers, I can draw them in just like I would. So I'm using an MA2, I'm running an MA3 light here, and we're just using the inbuilt DMX control of the fixtures. So there's no trickery here. And yes, as the administrator of L8 has said, you can also play with the brightness and the contrast of the 3D texture, which is what we were doing before when we were controlling it. So if I call back up our little state here, we've just got a single DMX channel, and we can bring this up. Very cool. So we're now going to move on to CE2. So let's load in the CE2 file. You seem to have a lamp out. So no, I don't have a lamp out. That would have been just the washers. So I've got spots and washers across the front. Before we move on, do we have any questions in CE? Which is also the version that we're giving away to this evening. So I'll load back into CE, and I'll bring all the lights up. Anyone have any questions before we move on? Based just solely on CE. It's quite a versatile product. So when I started building this file, it was actually, you know, it wasn't hard. Well, no, it wasn't easy to hit the 64 fixture limit. I kept adding things in, like the back stuff, and going, oh, is that going to be enough? Or, you know, going, oh, I've probably exceeded it, and always being constantly surprised. Everything you see here, other than the bits of set that light up, is a fixture. So all along here, we've got spots, and we've got washers, and we've got these profiles, as well as blinders sitting on the top. And even without a lighting desk plugged in, we can still see that we've got a semblance of control. There's also onboard control, which we won't be showing in this stream today. How do I participate in the giveaway? The giveaway will be announced very shortly at the end of the CE2 demonstration. We will be opening up the capacity to do that. How is it similar in building compared to Grand MA3? It's very simple. So if we drop into, we can see that we've got two different modes here. We've got Room and DMX. If we drop into Room, we can go Browse 3D Model, and we can see we've got a bunch of furniture, letters, all sorts of things, a range of truss, sofas, some speakers, and then some more truss. And then on top of that, we've got symbols. And I've been informed that there are now 1,300 different symbols for truss and all sorts of things that you can bring in. So if I bring in, let's say, this little bit of box truss, we can see that it comes in at 0,0 origin. We'll give it a bit of height here, and we can see that it's quite easy to do. So the way that I'm controlling this is my left hand, that you probably can't see, is manipulating a 3D mouse, which is the Space Connection 3D mouse, and my right hand is just driving a normal mouse. So we can see that we've got full position control here. We can do rotation. We can even size the object out if we want. But if we go quickly and grab a light, obviously this will exceed our fixture limit, but that will be alright. And we bring this up. When we get it close, what we can do is we can use some of the inbuilt tools. So if we grab this one, we can see that we get a nice little arrow, and when we come close, it's going to snap to that truss. What we can also do is use the +1 tool to add more fixtures in. So we can quickly build a truss quite effortlessly. What we can also do is clear out these, grab the par, duplicate it 3 times, and if we just want to space them across this one section of truss, we can go greater than 1 meter. So if we go greater than 1, it's going to space them over 1 meter. So do the blinders have redshift? Depending on the blinders that we use, they do have redshift. I think the ones that I've got here, let's have a look. I think these ones are fairly generic. So if I bring them down, no, the ones that I'm using here, which are just the generic 8-way ones, don't have a nice redshift in them. But you've still got a full range of dimming. What is the paperwork like? Obviously that question is always going to come up. Because a lot of other visualizer platforms on there have got great paperwork. I'm happy to say that in a coming version where I've been told we're targeting April, you will have the paperwork functionality, so you'll be able to print plots that are annotated in both 2 and 3D. At least I know 3D, I'd imagine 2D is possible. So it will have basic paperwork functionality, and there are a bunch of other things that are also coming in the pipeline towards, you know, the middle of this year. Can you export out to Vectorworks? You cannot. Well, you can export. You probably will have a little bit of trouble if you're doing the lighting part. Technically you could export out to an XML and bring that in, or an Excel file, but if you're coming from Vectorworks to this, you can definitely do that. So you've got Vectorworks compatibility to bring in files, which I've shown in a previous live stream. You can also bring in AutoCAD files, SketchUp, all sorts of things. And as I said before, we've got 3ds and FBX import and export. So you could definitely export all of this modeled stuff out, but you probably have to do the lighting portion again. When you are building long trusses, do they now snap together into one section, or is it still a layer thing? When you are building trusses, in the same way that we had the +1 tool, we now have the +1 tool for trussing as well. So if I grab the truss and the teeny tiny tool, we can quickly add on bits. And it also snaps together. So we can see here that I drag slowly and it snaps. So you don't have to put them in layers anymore. And the frame rate performance that you get from using the internal symbols is fantastic. But I haven't really noticed anything coming out of Vectorworks except for really complex plans. So we're going to quickly move along now. We're going to go up a level. So we're now going from CE to CE2. And after I do the CE2 presentation, we will announce how you can win a CE license. So we're going to resume back to the same that we had before. So just sort of a rough look. And in the meantime, I'm going to reposition a window here. So CE2, I'll give you a rundown. You have 128 fixtures. You can do 4 universes over ArtNet or SACN. You can have 8 lasers over Pangolin, Live Pro, and a bunch of other options. You can still do the same video recording, same 3ds FBX import. You can do an internal DMX record. You've also got onboard show control. Still, you've got 3D textures. You've now got animated people, which we'll cover in a sec. Same access to the symbols library, as I said, and mirrors. And that is 180 euros. So, the biggest thing to come to the lighting industry in the world of previs is moving people. Done are the days when you'd have a look that looks like this and you'd have to get all of the excitement into the lighting. If you want to have people, now you can have people. And now you can have people that move and are DMX controlled. So we've replaced the guitarist, we've lost the keyboardist, because this is a rock band, mate. There's no space for you. We've got a drummer, and we've got a rock guitarist as well. And there are a bunch of other models as well, and every couple of updates we're getting a couple more. So we've got these on DMX Control. So right now we can see that they're playing back one of 6 animations that they do. We can also speed them up a bit. So here we can see they're dancing and sort of rocking out now. We've got another action as well for these, and these are selectable via DMX, as is speed control. They take up 12 channels, and I've patched all of these people as the same 12 channels. We can also control the color of them, so full RGB control. If you want to do this, maybe you want to make, you know, certain colors pop, there's the option of doing that, but let's turn that off. And then the next thing that we've got that you get in CE2 is the thing that I'm really excited about. I've said that before already, but we're going to get really excited now. So to get the best output out of this, we're going to dim down the lights. And we're going to sit back. So I am about to show you a really short laser show. It's rendered out in a program called LV Player because I don't have the Pangolin Live Pro software. But if you did have it, you can visualize full lasers. I'll bring up the software that I'm running here. But here's a 4 laser head show. So we'll pan around so we can get a general idea of the lasers. So the lasers that we're using are Cavant 6 channels, and on top of, while they're running, we've got them controlled out of an external program. But if we jump into our lighting desk, we've also got full intensity control, and we can also do subtractive color mixing. So if you only wanted to see a red show, you can just make it a red show. So with the CE version, sorry, CE2, you can do up to 8 laser inputs, or you can have the same laser duplicated across a bunch of other ones. And yes, we are crowd scanning. Hell yeah, hot beams all the way. Dane Bolton asks, can I sync up my Speedmasters to the Viz so my dancers cut shapes perfectly in time? Yes, you definitely can. So can I import Nathan Averling's laser show with this software? Depending on the software you can use, yes. So if he's running Pangolin, you definitely can. Let me call up the laser so that we can see the options that we've got, just so that I get this right. So we can do DMX Laser, and I'll show you that as well. So if I go built-in presets, what we can do is we can just control the laser normally. So here we can see that we've got it up. We can just do DMX control. We can also change the zoom. And currently you're fixed on the sort of the pattern that we're using. So here we can see that we're using a square. In a future upcoming release, you will be able to pick from these presets over a DMX channel, just like there are gobos. So the other ways of getting laser in is you can use LaserGraph DSP, which was the plugin that we were just using before, using Laser Player. And you can also use Pangolin, as well as Laser Radar. I haven't used the Connect or the Laser to LC protocol. I think they are quite old, but you can do lasers, and it's really simple. So I have tested this with Pangolin, with a quite well-known laser person, not Nathan, for those that know Nathan Aveling, but someone else, and they were impressed with the output. And we put it side by side with a bunch of other visualizers that also do lasers. So I will set that one back to the protocol that it had, and we'll jump back in and continue the show. So lasers, ooh, this one is really fighting. Oh no, here we go. This one still wants output. There we go. Helps if I'm in the right queue or still in the laser queue show. So, on top of this, we've now added some side light in the shape of the GLP GT1s. So again, we can see that we've got full pan, tilt, zoom control. If we want to drop gobos in, we can drop gobos in. Full control. With this, we've also obviously upped our fixture counts. We're now we're doubling it, so we've gone from 64 to 128. So if we go plus, we've also now put in perspex tops to these back risers, and we're just using LEDs, so we can do some really nice cool effects here. Also with this channel count, we can bring in some other fixtures. So here we've got some Magic Blade effects. And for those wondering, yes, of course you can do infinite pan and tilt. So here they are infinitely panning. And here they are infinitely tilting with the zoom pushed all the way in. Let me just read through. So, if your 128 pixels across more than 4 universes in your console, does it let you do that? Or is it a parameter count thing? You have to put them on the 4 universes that you are supplied with, I am pretty sure. Let me just run through a couple more comments. Are there different models of lasers? So, yes, there are different models of the lasers, but you can change the output and tweak the output how you want. It's a laser, so you know they're all sort of bound by the amount of output you want, but the ones that we've got here are the Club Max 6000s. What we can also do is we can bring in DMX lasers, so you can do something like a Cavant sort of laser grid like this. So here we see just a bunch of beams. So we could DMX control this just like we would in real life. And I'll try not to hot beam people this time. But we can see that we can do sort of like laser grid style fixtures as well. And you've got a couple of options, but most of it, you know, you're not going to be really wanting to visualize DMX lasers. It's more to give an idea of what it's going to look like. But can you do the macros? So, no, currently you can't do the macros. So, the question was, can you do the macros? That would mean the inbuilt macros in the fixtures. So the magic blades that we've got here, you can't do the macros yet. Hopefully in the future, when that information is more available, that might come, but you know, right now none of the visualizers are doing most of the inbuilt macros. Alright, what else have we got? So, on top of that, we've also added some pars around the outside, so we can just see some Source 4s with a really tight lens in them. So we're slowly getting more and more towards a 9 Inch Nails like show here. We can also add back in our 3D fog that we had before, and then we can bring it all together into one big look. So, Cameron asked, outputting from a PC without hardware. Are there ways to go about this? So it hasn't been asked before. No. So that is the limitation of MA. Currently with MA2, you cannot output without parameters. We hope that with the MA3 that they will release a viz driver, and that will be across the range of all of the visualizers that, you know, that be capture, you know, Wig and all of those. Obviously Wig's got sort of a monopoly on it currently, and so does Vision, but that will change with MA3. Currently there's no viz driver for any of them, and we're hoping that this time around there is a viz driver for this and capture and all the others. You know, slightly going off script here, we hope that this is something that they do, because every other manufacturer does it. You know, to a certain degree in certain differing ways, but we hope that MA do that. But no, right now you can't, with L8, do that. How does the pixel mapping look across the battens? We will come to that. We've got some X20 bars in the fixture files, or in one of the files, so we will get to pixel mapping shortly as well. Yeah, cool. Do they have a colour in those S4 bars, or is it emulated tungsten colour? So there's no colour as far as I know. It might just be the angle that I'm kind of on, but if we wanted to put a colour in those S4 bars, we could do that as well. So if I just grab them and we go into filter and we go, you know, fixed, let's put, you know, we're using Roscoe Lux, let's go Lee, you know, let's put a punchy deeper blue into them. We can easily put a gel into them, and it won't burn out either, which is good. So I didn't grab them all, but you get the idea. So on top of that, if we decide that we don't want them to have that zoom range, we can modify the zoom range. We can also drop a sort of a linear frost in them if we want, but it's entirely up to us. And yeah, in the same way that we did in CE, we could also shutter them down. Not that that's very realistic, because they are source 4 pars. Does anyone with any NPU or an SP sitting around have them plug them into a network and let... Yes. So you can... that's off the topic of L8, but you can connect to a MA node over the internet if you've got a VPN. It takes a bit of trickery, but it definitely is possible. You could create your own virtual render farm. Can you easily invert the color mode in the objects to suit whatever console you are using? Some consoles have libraries in RGB, some in CMY. So with CE and CE2, you can't build your own fixtures, but you can very quickly request fixture files from L8. The turnaround time is normally less than a week, and it depends on the amount of detail you give and obviously the fixture. But if you're finding something like that, you could easily do it either via L8 or you could ask. But I mean, if your consoles are that limited, you've got other problems. Because the MA that I'm sitting in front of is smart enough to let me switch back and forth. It's just an invert, really. Alright, so if we don't have any more questions, we're going to move on to the big brother, which is media. So we're going to jump into the media file. And while we wait that to load, I'll run you through my nice little crib sheet that I've got here. So with media, you can do up to 512 fixtures in a file. You can do 255 ArtNet universes. You now gain the HOG4 driver, the visual driver, so you don't need any like HOG hardware to now do output. You don't have to use SACN or ArtNet. You can just use the HOG driver. You can also do MANet, but MANet obviously comes with an asterisk. You need parameters to do that. Are we using the MA driver in this current visualization? No, we're not, because I have a lighting desk. I am programming for not a real show, but I am programming for a show. It makes sense to me in my head that I would output what I'll output actually on a show. So yeah, I could do MANet to emulate, you know, going out to nodes, but you know, running SACN means that if I need to drop a HOG in here, I can plug the cable in and not need to do any configuration. So the question from Badru, can L8 export out to CSV? Yes. So if we jump back into here, we can do this across the range from CE all the way up to unlimited. We'll see that we've got the option of going export to Excel, and if we wait, it's going to build the file and it's going to open up in Excel, and we're going to get a nice file. Here we go. So here's the Excel file with all the fixtures and all their 3D position. In the same way that you can export out to Excel, we can also import from Excel. So if you had an MA3D file, so like an MA2 show file, you can use a program that is bundled with the L8 software to bring those files in. So you export out a patch XML file, and for those familiar with the way that we export out patches to get into MA from Vectorworks, you're taking that same file, you're converting it using a little program that comes with the software, and it's spitting you out a file ready to be put in L8. The caveats are that's going to do your lights pretty solidly actually, but it's not going to do your 3D objects. Again, it's an MA limitation. You can't get 3D objects out of MA3D. Dimitri from L8 has answered a question that I didn't even know. So he said that there is a way of, yep, there you go, minus C and Y, so you can change them dynamically here if you so desire. Anyway, now we're in media. Media is where it gets really exciting for me. Well, I think it's all exciting, to be honest. So we'll bring up our state again. You know, we've played with this before, but now we've added in some side boom Vipers. So we've got 24 Vipers here, just for a bit of extra side light. We're going to push through a quick color change here. And then we're going to go with some additional fixtures. So now on top of our little risers here, we've added some magic panels. So magic panel effects as we pan around. And we've also added some X20 bars. And here we can see them doing a chase. And here we don't have them in full mode. I don't have enough parameters to do that. But what we can see here is we can see what a pixel map fixture would look like. So if I run a very quick rainbow chase, we get an idea of what that looks like. So if we had a higher channel count fixture, you'd get all the pixels doing what they were doing. So you would get, depending on the mode, individual pixel control. We've also added some stormies to those booms. And before we continue, I want to leave it in this mode, and I want you to pay attention to the response rate that we've got on these strobes. So we're using Stormy CCs here, and we can also do sort of some color effects. And we can see if we, we head into our audience, we can get the reflections off them as well. Back to the previous question about color. Can L8 emulate luster mode or deal with additive color mixing fixtures in general? You know what? That's a really, really good question. And I will actually have to patch a luster to answer that. I imagine that you would, and we'll come back to it at the end of media. I promise I'll come back to it for you. I reckon there's a fixture file, and I reckon it'll deal with it because it's just another color emitter. So let's drop back to our normal state here. Now the other thing that we add in media, you're not going to believe this, is we add media. So I've got a media server sitting behind me. I've got an Mbox Mini running off a laptop that's struggling in the heat, but we can run content. So what we've got here is we don't have one LED screen, we've actually got two. And the way that we map these is actually quite cool. So we've just got a clip running here, and if we come back into GUI mode and we can see that it's frame dropping there, that's not L8, that's the poor little media server struggling. And we grab our two LED screens. If we go into, let's say, grab a test pattern for a sec, we can see that it's perfectly mapped. But imagine that you've got like sticks of screens and you want to map that easily. You could go in and you could manually set the offsets, or you could use this great button called Record View. And Record View basically positions your video where you want it on that screen. So when Record View is active, I can pan and I can sort of set the angle I want this screen to be, and it's not a perfect science because I'm using a 3D mouse. But if you've got multi-screen outputs, you can easily do it like this. We click Record View, and it's done. And now we've mapped those two screens. So we'll kick this back to input 1, and we can see that we've also got NDI as an option. So I'm using a Blackmagic capture card here, but if you wanted to use NDI, we can also bring in NDI feeds, and with media, we can do up to 12 individual inputs, and we can do 9 of those over NDI. And for those that are unfamiliar with NDI, NDI is the future. So while you don't see it on this stream currently, if I was to change my view to desk for a sec, we're going to see the desk that I'm sitting in front of over NDI. So I've got an MA3 here, and the way that this software is getting it is via NDI with a converter. But NDI, definitely the future, because it means that we can pick up that stream anywhere on the network. And I lobbied L8 to include this feature because I was so sick of dealing with the way that Blackmagic capture cards and all of that works. And with NDI, we get, you know, less than 2 frames, or about 2.5 frames, depending on the way that your network is structured. So it's a major step forward. Alright, thanks Christian, thanks for hanging out and bringing some people with you. Do patch and IDs get included in images when you save and print? Samuel, I answered that one already previously. April, we're looking at the next sort of feature release, and you will get basic paperwork functionality so you can export that information out. Cool, so we've done media. The other thing, well, we've done media in media, haha. The other thing that we get in the media version is we now get DMX camera control. So now, for the rest of the demonstration, I can put my 3D mouse away and we can start doing some really cool stuff, all via the lighting desk. So now the camera is controlled by the lighting desk. So if I run DMX cam, we can see that we can pan and tilt and control things with fade times just like we would with a light. So we can see that we're doing a fade across here, and if I want to go back, I can go back, or I can add in the fade time. So what we've got here is 16-bit pan, tilt, zoom control. We can also differ anything that you want with haze. We can change the depth of field, we can change the fan, and this makes it a product that you now have to, you know, you no longer have to touch the interface with. You can not have a 3D mouse, you can sit here, you know, right now if I grab the fixture, so if I grab our L8 camera, number one, I can bring the house lights up, if I so choose, or we can adjust our position, so I can pan and tilt around. I've also got full X and Y control, everything I want. So let's go and visit front of house, because the other thing that we've done is we've added some preview monitors out in our front of house world. So we can see that we've got the same thing that's running on those 6 monitors is running on the screen up there. And the way that we map those 6 individual monitors that we see in front of us there was using that same tool that I did the back screen with. So before we move on, the question that has been raised, can it support more than one NDI feed from a server, or do you require more servers? No, you can take multiple feeds from one server. They all appear. So if we were to jump into GUI and grab a monitor for a sec, if I now go into material and movie, which is where we find our video files, when we click NDI, what's going to happen is we're going to get this snow, and we can see that if I wanted to bring up an NDI source such as the MA, I can select that and wait for it to lock, and if I minimize this window, we can now see that we've got the MA up here, and it is actually the real MA. So if I change my screen here, we can see that it changes in real time. It's a bit stretched because we've stretched it to fit another input, but on the same thing, obviously I can do the same again. So if we go movie, NDI 2, we get another window up, and we can add the other screen in if we want as well. Cool, simple. NDI, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm reading through a couple of comments. Depends on the server. Most servers can output as many NDI feeds as licensed outputs. Yeah. So let's say you've got a hypertizer. You can do that based on your outputs or mixes. So you can do, you know, a couple of mixes all off one hypertizer if you want. And yeah. So before we move on, we'll get to the question of the luster. So we'll see what we can do. So the luster is under, obviously, fixed. and I'm ballsing up the spelling. So there is a 10 channel mode, so I'm guessing it's going to be possible. So let's just pull it out of the dirt. I've grabbed the very shortly, very narrow one. So if I kill everything just for a sec, just so we're focused on this little light, we can see, yep, so we've got red. If I bring up the dimmer, we've got the lime emitter, we've got amber, we've got green, cyan, and we can just keep adding them in. So if I DMX controlled it, I'd also have the same control there, but you know, from the look of it, as long as the desk that you're using sends these parameters, you're going to get the output you want. So it looks like it'll do the lusters. Can L8 support multiple cameras controlled via DMX, or could you cut between cameras 1 and 2 for different positions at 0 time? Yeah, you definitely can. So you can't have more than one DMX camera, but if I go back into DMX control mode and we bring up my Q stack again, and we punch through to our 2 camera positions. So let's fade. So we'll see that it's going to fade in if I enable camera again. So we can see it's got a fade time. If I go backwards, it's going to snap. So that's with a fade, that's with a snap. So if I drop the you know, very clean 6-second fade and made these both 0, we'll get an idea of what that snapping looks like. So we'll go back, forward, and you can also transition through black if you wanted to. Does media support projectors? Yes. So in the same way that we have been doing LED screens, if I was to go back into our fixture library here and go projector, and let's grab a Christie 35K, and we'll point it at the wall. It might be upside down, we'll find out. Let's just cheat the lens a bit, because obviously we're quite far away. Here we can see that it's 4:3, obviously not very helpful, so we can change the aspect to 16:9, and then we can probably zoom it back out a bit as well. And then if we go filter, we go texture, and I go movie, and I grab my first capture card again, and of course run some media. We can see that we get that media. So now we've done a projector, running media, and if we go back into the same mode for a sec here, and let's say we wanted to do, you know, the dodgy version of a 2 projector blend, we could also definitely do that. So we could double stack here just to get a bit more output. Find my projectors that are hovering probably somewhere in the ether. And now we can see that we've got 2, which is a bit blurry because I haven't overlapped them properly. Sorry, I'm reading the comments about Nathan's mouse problems. Alright, so that's media. Do we have any other questions? Oh, Nathan swore. Do we have any more questions before we move on from media into trace? Ah, yes, we do. Before we move on, I reckon we're going to give out something. My lovely assistant will post a link on how you can win an L8C dongle. I reckon now is the time to begin entering that competition. When importing fixtures onto a truss, if I trim the truss lengths at different heights or angles, do the fixtures snap or follow? So they snap if you're just positioning them, but if you want them to stay together, you put them into what's called layers. And when we jump into trace, where we're going to be able to do moving objects, you'll see a really good example of that. So, if you want to win a CE license, check in the comments now. There's a post that says how to win, so you go to the link, you enter as many times as you want, so you can go through and just enter up to 5 times technically by doing different actions, and at the end of this stream, we'll pick a winner. I reckon let's leave it open for about 20 minutes and then we'll select a winner. So for those that wanted to pick up a CE license, now you can. So we'll jump into Trace. So we're loading up our Trace license, and it's the same stage again. Obviously our stage is just getting bigger and bigger. Is the output from the projector calibrated to its true output? Look, to a certain degree it definitely is, but if it's not, you can always sort of add a bit more lumens. Can you do live truss moves via DMX control? Yes, that's actually what we're about to do. So I will quickly load in so that I can do another little trick that we've got to do. When you load between show files, it prompts you for a couple of changes. Cool. Alright, so let's pull up Trace. So now we're in L8 Trace. Before we continue, I'll give you the same little crib sheet rundown that we've been doing before every version. So, in Trace, we can use up to 800 fixtures. You can still do the same 255 ArtNet SSCA universes, 255 Hog4 universes. Again, you can do 255 MA universes, but you need to have hardware. What we're adding in this is we can do the return of 3D textures. So the Media Edition, you miss out on mirrors and you miss out on the 3D textures, but with Trace we see the return of that. But we've also got the capacity to now move objects. So we'll quickly click through. A couple of things have been moved, so we're slowly getting, as I said before, closer to our 9 Inch Nails Dream stage. So our paths have slightly moved, and then we're going to highlight next what else we can do with them. So the question of can we do things that involve DMX movements? Let's have a look. So let's light up these lovely little PAR rails that we've got here. So with the power of Trace, we can do this. And this is DMX controlled. This is a single channel dimmer on each. So there's 6 DMX channels. And here we can see that we've got total control of them. So when we've been able to do that, now we can do other things. So we can add lights to the bottom of them. And on top of that, obviously, we can add other lights. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the GLP JDC1 in working condition. Hooray! A visualizer that does it. However, it doesn't do the macros. Just got in there. So let's stagger the positions a bit of these moving objects, and obviously we can make them move unrealistically fast if we so choose, but we've got them set to a nice slow speed. But, you know, before we go any further, let's have a look at these strobes. Gratuitous amounts of movement and just random strobe from the JDCs. Anyway, sorry. I was programming and I just noticed that there was nothing that truly showed off the JDC. So let's zoom in quickly on the JDC so that we get an idea of it. So here we can see the middle bit is off. So if I grab it in my lovely desk here, we can also add in the middle section. And we can do some really cool effects with them, obviously, because they're JDCs. So, the question of how it brings its motion in. I'd love to say that it talks kinesis, and that might be in the pipeline, but it's going to take a couple of years, I reckon. It's definitely not on the roadmap. Currently it's just DMX control. So that's the way that we do it. Nice, that isn't reading your frame rate on strobe, like some visualizers. Yeah, exactly. See, my crazy strobing, and also I'd like to point out my crazy moving of objects. Wow, you turn the lights on and it really doesn't look as cool. Has value. So we can see that we've still got a solid 60 frames per second, which is cool. The other thing we can do with trace is we can do virtual cameras. So here we can see we've got our little performer dancing a little heart out here, and we can see that we've got her up on a little camera in the back there. And we can see that she's also mirrored down the bottom of her. So if we add lights in the background, we can see that we also get the lights. Now, I'm not here to sell you something that doesn't do everything that you want it to do. We can see in the camera view that we don't see haze. That is a limitation. I'd love to see that worked, you know, resolved in the future. But right now, at least what we've got is virtual cameras. And you can at least see fixtures in the background as well. We can also change cameras. So we can change cameras dynamically. So this is camera 1. Let's cut to camera 2, which is our guitarist over on the right. What are the recommended specs, you ask? For L8? Hopefully Nightbot will answer that. So we're running on not the most crazy system here, but not the most horrific either. So let's advance forward to camera 3. So here we can see someone absolutely rocking out. So again, we've still got the same control of the 3D people as we want. The other thing that we can do is we can combine cameras with the power of moving people. So down the front here, we have, if we give her a little bit of house light, we've got our own personal camera person that we've got full pan and tilt control over. And as we can see on the little iMac screen at the back, when we move the camera, the vision changes on the screen in front of us. So this is Jan, the camera woman. And we could also take control of zoom as well if we needed to. But essentially, you know, I could have just done a jib camera, but I figured it'd be nicer to have something that's a human factor. Let's pan back to ops so we can get a real idea of what this looks like. And we can also see the same way that we were previewing content before, we've now got up on our little screen here as well. So now if I go one thing ahead, we're also going to add back in our content off our media server. And we can see that we're running 2 vision sources on the stage quite easily. Let's pull it all together. And now we can see we've got moving objects on stage and we've got content. So before we move on, let me look through a couple of the questions. Is it possible to change the way the fixtures interact with haze per fixture type? Not really. Are you limiting any rendering quality to make it run on a GTX 1080? If I had a better card, could I boost to higher quality? So I'm not limiting here. We don't have the haze running at 100%. But we could bump it up as well if we needed to. But because I'm rendering on a 1080 screen using a 1080, we're pretty much running at full frames, which is 60 frames for the refresh of this monitor without any issue. I have an RTX 2070 based computer, which is the laptop sitting beside me that's doing the actual streaming coding. We can do up to 4K res with that flawlessly. So I wouldn't say that you'd be limited by a 1080, but you'll definitely notice a performance increase in larger resolutions. Does L8 run on Mac? No, unless you boot camp it. I appreciate that L8 has some L-acoustics boxes. Yeah, it does. I nearly got someone to do a full array calc on it. I even curved them. I don't think the curve is right, but at least it's At least it's something. And you know, look, nothing's hanging off sky hooks here. I did put in a little bit of work here, but this is all, as I said before, this has all been built in L8 using the inbuilt symbol library, and it works. So I reckon let's put in another jab for the competition. So let's see who's going to win a LC license. So if you check the chat right now, there'll be a link to enter the competition, which we'll be drawing at the end for you to win a CE license key. So the question of how to do moving trusses in L8. So we're running L8 trace here, and the way that you do it, if I turn everything off for a sec, then we go into room, is you create an object like we've done here. So I'll grab my lighting frame. We put it in a layer. Once it's in a layer, if you go into room, you can do 4 ways of positioning. So if we grab number 6, we can see that it's here. And then we just tell it where we want it to go. So this one goes to 7 meters. We then give it a DMX channel, and that's it. To get fixtures to follow it, all we simply have to do is add those lights into a layer in the same way that we added the other ones before. So the question previously on if you created trusses and then had to tilt them or whatever, the best way would be to put them into a layer. Grab your layer, do your rotate like that, and then save it like that. That'd be the easiest way of manipulating things, especially if they're on angles and stuff. You did have the right top boxes of the right subs, so that's good. Can you hang theatre sets, i.e. a wall with a texture that can fly in and out? Yeah, so I can animate. Wow, that's actually stayed like that. That poor little lighting cart. Now I feel bad for it. Let's rotate it back so I stop feeling bad. Hang on. We'll use the undo tool. There we go. Save. Yeah, so any object with trace, wow, it's still going to stay like that. That's totally on me. There it is. 0. So yeah, in the same way that we animated these objects, the easiest way would be for me just to rebuild it. So if I grab, let's say, a panel, and we'll kind of leave it where it is. So let's make it, you know, 5 meters by 4. And I'm not gonna attach anything else to it, but we'll put a material on it. So we'll just put, you know, some cloth. Then if we put it into a layer, we'll call it test. Then if we go into position 1, we give it a altitude. So let's have it fly in. And we'll give it the same DMX address as frame 6, which is 372. 373. And then we'll go save, and we'll see it snap back to its home position. And then if I grab all of my automation, we can now move it up and down. And that's as simple as it is. So if I attach lights to it, that'd be it. You might have noticed that we've also got pos 2, 3 and 4. So if we wanted to, let's say, have one that rotated it, we can also do it like that. Coming back to questions. Ray tracing. Ray tracing is something that is on the roadmap, but hasn't been sort of forecast in terms of date just yet. If they announce ray tracing, they'd be the first visualizer to do it as well. So, you know, ray tracing is a bit of a weird one. Not even the gaming world has really embraced it 100%. So maybe it's a fad. We'll see what happens. Can you reorder layers once created? I.e. the old LC you had to export to Excel to do this. Exporting out to XL is probably still the better way of doing that, but there are other ways of doing it as well. Can you rotate a DMX address? Yes, you can. Will there be another webinar and explaining the process of importing Vectorworks CADs? In the previous live stream we did, towards the end, I showed the process. I took an entire ground support stage and brought it in, Ryan. So if you go back to my other live stream, I think about 30 or 40 minutes in, I go through the full process of installing the plugin as well as exporting it out. But yes, there will be a proper video coming that just covers that. Can you resize it as it moves like a roll drop? You can change the scaling of it, but you can't have an object roll out. What else have we got here? Yeah, I think that's kind of it. Are they going to support ray tracing? No, I answered that. Coming. Atmospheric physics on haze. So we've got, we have actually already kind of answered that. So we've got, obviously, let me bring my Q stack up. So we've got, you know, control of haze. We can also do wind. I showed with CE, we can also do 3D textures. So we've got sort of low fog here that we can see being introduced and removed. So you definitely do have a level of control over that. Is it possible to resize your selection of movers? I don't understand. I don't understand that question. I'm sorry, you'll have to... Can you reword it in a way? Is it possible to resize your selection of movers? Well, yeah, so if you're asking whether I can, you know, I can stop certain lights being in that layer, yeah, definitely. I can just take them out of the layer. So if we, you know, if I put them on now frame ladder, obviously it's going to shift the XY position of it. But if I now come out of this mode and grab my automation, we'll see that that light stays where it is because it's not physically tied to that object anymore. But now I have to go find it in the stage. So the attachment process is pretty painless. With DMX recording, is it additive? Well, you define the range that it is. So I defined that the top height of this by going into position 1 was it deviates 7 meters. So the white shows the original position and that shows where it's going to end up. So if I wanted it to, you know, absolutely crash through the ceiling, all I'd have to do is update that, save, and then obviously the low position is changed, but now it's going to go all the way to wherever we position it. So it's quite easy to do it just by updating it. And it goes the same for, you know, updating rotation as well. And you can manipulate an object in, you know, 3 or 4 different ways as required. Ray tracing is pretty hard to do live properly. Even Notch doesn't do ray tracing in real time yet. Correct. Can you define the 3D object spawn point so it's not at 0 and 0? Yeah, you can. So you can, if I set an object as the new world center, so if I set, you know, lovely Gwendolyn here as the world center, now objects are going to come in and spawn on her. So if I go DMX and we add in, you know, a future light or whatever, that's going to be the 0, 0 position. So, you know, in large files you can move the room position around. By default we've got the 0, 0 position set to the floor. And let's just, you know, clear up a bit here as well. All right, finally, let's go with one more plug for the competition, and we'll see how we're going on time. We've still got lots of time. We're doing well. So do we have any questions while I just mess around in Trace while we're waiting? Let's play with the JDCs a bit. They're always, you know, they're always a bit of fun to hack around with. So we can see when we punch off the wind, we get really thick, nice, beautiful haze. And now we've got a rainbow chase going. Can you arrange layout in MA using... Can you arrange layout in MA using L8 cameras? No. So, Alessandro, you don't have two-way communication like you do with, oh, excuse me, MA3D. So, in theory, you could take a patch file out of L8 and you could translate it to something that works in MA and then do your layout views, but no, you don't get full backwards, two-way communication like you do with MA. Do I need to be here potentially for the win? It's 4 AM here. Yeah, you know what? I reckon give me 5 more minutes and I reckon we'll draw this thing. How many entries have we had? Let's find out how we're going on the entries. Yeah. So we've had a lot of entries. We've had 302 entries, so I think we've definitely had enough entries. So yeah, let me answer the current questions we've got on the screen, and then I reckon we'll draw this thing. So just hang on a couple more minutes. Stop telling me I've got a JDC out. I don't have a JDC out. What I've got is them panned in a weird direction. If we pan them slightly down, we can see them. The ones on the bottom are sitting on a different angle. But I definitely don't have a JDC out. 4, 4, 4, 4, and 4 across the back. Because I ran out of parameters. Alright, quickly going through these questions. Is it possible to kill custom shapes, or are you limited to the library? You can import your own things from SketchUp. SketchUp, AutoCAD, Vectorworks, any of those. So you can build it in that, bring it in there. So, no, you're not limited to just using the library of fixtures that are in here. Nicholas Beechin, DMX Code. Is there any way to sync back the playback to music? No. So you can do an inbuilt DMX record. So if we were to just quickly go into DMX for a sec, we can actually run a DMX record. So if we record to slot 1, go test. We're recording now, so you know, let's clear the programmer, push up some lights, and then we can stop the record, and then we can select this and go load DMX file, and it's going to play back that. So right now, no, you can't time that with music, but what we might be able to do is we might be able to do a feature request to have at least DMX control active. So you wouldn't need to take your big MA with you. You might just need to trigger like something. Maybe it's over MIDI or maybe it's over DMX. Probably MIDI would work better, but I don't think you're ever going to get internal timecode. Yes, 3ds Max works as well. How do you manage problems created by the mirror tool in Vectorworks? L8 seems to ignore fixture IDs and use the Vectorworks IDs. Do you reorder the object list in L8 to match the fixture order? Currently, yes. So currently we're using a sort of an old way of bringing in files from Vectorworks. with the next update, we're hopefully looking to a couple of changes that'll make that a bit easier, and we'll hopefully have a way of reordering those fixtures by fixture ID. Peter Ruby, once you recorded it, can you render it out to a video? Yes, so this will be the last question before we announce, so I apologise to those that are, late at night. If we were to use the internal record function, basically what happens is we hit the record button, and what happens is we drop to 640 by 480, and you play back the show that you want to play back, doing whatever you want, and then we click stop, and now it's going to render it out at full res. So it's also recording audio, so right now it's going to render out a file in 1080, frame by frame, in high quality, and then it's going to punch out an MPEG-4 file for us, which we can then play back. So no screen capture software, and this is from CE all the way up. We can do inbuilt recording of DMX and of anything that you do on the screen in front of you. Alright, so I promised that we'd do the release. So let's go and draw a winner. But before we do that, I've got to do this. I haven't programmed a ballyhoo, but I feel like we'll just call up some lights and do it. And it's going to be funny because there's a delay. So, ballyhoo going, ladies and gentlemen. We had, how many entries did we have? We had 300 and something entries. We had 305 entries. And the winner of the L8 CE license, we'll drag this across so you know that I'm not cheating, is winners to draw. We are drawing one winner. Draw. I put it across and then I dragged it back because I realised that we might not want to put it on screen. So the winner of the CE license is Sean Cook, who has a trace license. Sean, do you want your CE license? You can completely take it. I mean, it might be good for one of the guys. But anyway, Sean Cook of Lightology has won a CE license. It would have been nice if it was someone that didn't already have a license, but that's all right. I'm sure it'll get used. And watch everyone leave the chat now. That's why I didn't want to do it. But with people, needing to go to bed. We'll quickly kick into our final thing. So our final showcase we have here, we're now looking at L8 Unlimited. So L8 Unlimited, obviously we've upped the fixture count. We don't have the full 2,000 fixtures, which this version allows you to have, but we've got a fair amount. So Unlimited, we can do 2,000 fixtures. We can now do 4 virtual camera outputs over the other 2. We can also now do Oculus Rift and Vive compatibility. So you can strap on a headset and immerse yourself in the exciting world of VR if you so choose right in L8. And I own what do I own? A Rift S. And I can tell you that the Rift S is a wonderful piece of kit. So you can essentially look around, you can also walk around, and it's like being in the room. It's the most unbelievable thing. You can literally walk with the headset on and be in virtual reality. It's such a cool thing. I advise everyone to try it. Anyone who is based in Melbourne, Australia, when we finally open our new office, I invite you to all come down and check it out. For those that don't have VR or don't have VR or aren't located in Melbourne, Australia, we'll be putting up some videos of what it's like, but until you're wearing the headset, it doesn't really compare. So obviously you can reach out to your distributors, or what you can do is you can get a temporary upgrade to Unlimited. So contact your distributors as well. If you want more information, I believe some more information will be in the chat. But yeah, you know, we can definitely accommodate you if you're based in Melbourne, Australia. So we're looking at unlimited now. So let's call up our unlimited queue list. We've got a couple of tricks left. Obviously the fixture expansion and the VR are the two biggest ones that you've got. But one feature that you do get in lower versions, I'm just going to get rid of that zone texture icon. I know why that's there. It's because I closed the little window that was driving the virtual cameras. We can also do disco balls. So this isn't an unlimited exclusive. This is definitely something you can do in CE, but you can now have a DMX controlled mirror ball, complete with little pixels and everything. Oh, and I have an itchy nose for some reason. The air is drying. So apologies. So with that extra channel count, you can also pixel map things. So here what we've done is we've taken our video export out, so we can see that the same thing that's running on the screen is now running across, how many of these things? I think we've got 100. So we're running pix pads across the audience here, and we can see that we've got a lot of punch out of them. So if I quickly jump in here and change our content, we can see that it goes with it. And also shout out to Beeple, who provided the content, because I couldn't find my content library. Can I come to Melbourne for beer and Oculus Fun? You definitely can come to beer and Oculus Fun. You do get the mental sensation of light hitting you in the warm of glow, yes. And Matt Doherty, I can't remember what you're referring to. But yeah, so this is pixel mapping, which we can obviously do. The other thing that we can now do in L8, as we slowly fade in, and this is not an unlimited exclusive, the only really big thing that we add in unlimited really is VR, as I've said before, and the channel count, so I'm more just going through some of the like full highlights. We can now do the IVL career, M career. So here we are running a rainbow chase through it, and here we are running sort of a pan tilt. So this is in 25 channel modes. We don't have obviously the full capacity to change all 4 colors, but we have a really good representation of what they look like. I know I toured with a couple last year. They are beautiful as long as you've got darkness. So that's what they look like. And that's what they look like with effects. So that's, yeah, no, I now know what you mean. It's just really dry in here. So that's L8, ladies and gentlemen. So if you've got any questions, reach out. We've got about 15 minutes left in the stream, so feel free to ask questions. We're sitting in unlimited now, so if there's anything that you want to see in particular, I can bring that up. But yeah, thanks for coming out to the stream. So feel free to ask your questions. But yeah, so I'm happy to show really anything. You know, we've got 15 minutes. There's no point wasting it. Even if it's just, you know, how does it all work? Can you make the lens rotation like the BI? Good question. Very good question. I haven't used the BI in a while. Let's bring one in and let's have a look. Here's an empty slot that I prepared earlier. BI. probably want it in ridiculous mode. No, we'll put it in shapes mode. Let's have a look. So that's a really good question. I know you won't get the macros, but I suspect you might get the lens. So I haven't hooked this up to a lighting desk. I'm hoping that I don't need to. Ooh, I don't think you actually do. Oh good, Sean, you're still here. Congratulations on winning. You won a license. I'll send you an email very soon. I don't have the license key, but I will, we'll definitely follow up and make sure that you get that. Yeah, it doesn't look like we can. You can do the cool thing. Unless I've missed something, I'm pretty sure you can't get the front to rotate. But I thought you could. Maybe I'm crazy. Yeah, it doesn't look like you can. Hi Alex, unsure of the latest fixture count, but what is the new beast like in L8, in your opinion? I don't know what you mean by the new beast. Look, there's lots of great fixtures available. I kind of put together like a best of hits here. I obviously like the way that the magic panels work, and the fact that you've got, everything you'd need, such as your infinite pan and tilt. It's just the beam quality that really excites me about L8. Yes, you can do that in MA3D, but you'd be using third-party files to do it. Can you layer in a layer to get a concertina effect with objects, like a video screen from the 360? Yeah, you could. You definitely could do something. Are licenses done by registering keys, or are they hardware dongles? Don't shudder at dongles. Dongles are good. Dongles are great. Dongles I love. So, no, to answer your question, so CE and CE2 are serial based, and media, trace and above are all dongle based. And with your media dongle or your trace dongle, you can temporarily update to unlimited for 3, 6 or 12 months, depending on how long you need it for, and then after that it'll just revert back. So if you've got any questions about that, feel free to contact us. There will be a contact thing in the stream very shortly if you want a quote, because I urge you to reach out and get a quote. There's no harm getting a quote. I know no one's spending any money right now, but it's a good time to lock in a good price, because that quote will last, 60 days, and it also gives you an idea. So I'll run through the list price of all of the versions that we've got available and showcased. So the version that we gave out before to Sean was €88, and that was the CE version. Then CE2, which gives you 128 fixtures, lasers, mirrors, and a bunch of other stuff, is €180. Media is about €1,400, but pricing on media and above is quite competitive. So there are discounts available going through a distributor like myself if you're Asia Pacific based or in any other range. Same with Trace, which is €2,800, and then Unlimited, which is €7,500. If you're interested, yeah, I know that's my own comment. Is it easy to move between machines for serial-based ones? So CE and CE2, you're tied to the hardware. So with CE and CE2, basically you pay your money, and it's serial key-based, and it's locked to that computer. So you can swap out graphics cards, do all that. but you're tied to that hardware. With CE and CE2, you only get a year of upgrades as well. With the other ones, you get annual upgrades as required. Matt is asking about the Beast. I'm not sure whether the Beast has made it into the library. Because no one has probably... I don't think it's in yet. For the simple fact that no one has requested it yet. Yeah, we don't have the Beast in the library yet. But if we wanted it, we could request it. So if you've got it on a show, feel free to request it and we'll get it added in. Do you pay for upgrades, minor, major? So with CE and CE2, you pay your money and you've got a year of upgrades of fixtures and that kind of stuff. After that period, you obviously retain the software, but you'd need to pay for another year of upgrades. With media and above, you continue to get fixture updates, but every year, last year was the first year that they did it, you can add on what's called feature packs, and feature packs normally add quite big features that aren't required for everyone. For example, last year's feature pack 19, gave you NDI, the capacity to import and export 3DS files, as well as a couple of other smaller features. Any dongles that are sold, so that's Media, Trace and Unlimited, that are sold right now, you'll get Feature Pack 19 and Feature Pack 20, which is yet to be released, which comes out in mid-April, which will see the paperwork feed functionalities and a bunch of other ones. You will get that included. Is the fixture library listed on my website? No, it is not listed on my website. There is a text file that can be located. The fixture, there is quite a large fixture thing, but if you contact me via the website or the contact link, which was above, just before, where it says if you're interested in getting a quote or have a support question, so it's alexhughes.com/contact, and ask me what fixture you require. I will tell you whether it's in the library, and I'll also send you a quick video of the fixture running if it's in the library already. Do we have any other questions? Everyone sort of left after I gave away things. Always seems to be the way. But I mean, if you give me a couple of fixtures now, I can look up the list. So you only get 2 future feature pack updates and you need to what? Pay an upgrade fee? So right now you will get, yes, feature pack 19 and feature pack 20. But they are optional upgrades. You will still continue for the lifetime of the product to get fixture updates and all that kind of stuff. The feature packs are just literally add-ons. So it's not like WIG where it's a yearly renewal, except for CE and CE2. You will get lifetime upgrades. The product has been around for quite a few years and dongles have continued to get upgrades throughout that period. The only time that there was a required update was when they changed the dongle technology, and now we're on the new dongle technology. That won't happen again. And obviously there's, you know, a full refund guarantee if you're buying through a distributor like me, so it's worthwhile getting. Honestly, I reckon you pick up a CE or a CE2 license to have a play with, learn the software, and then you can transition across to the others where you feel the requirement is there. You know, because the files are always backwards compatible. Obviously, if you open an unlimited file in CE, it's going to give you a big warning and you're not going to be able to control over the first 64 fixtures, but you can at least open the files. Does it have the same fixtures in the library, wax and pages? Does it have some fixtures? Does it have some fixtures in the library? I really don't understand that question, because we've got lots of fixtures. There is not just some fixtures. We've got scanners as well, not a large list of scanners. We've got fixed. And we can also do projectors. The DJ, the 375 spot. Let's see whether we've got the 375 spot now. I reckon we do. The Intimidator 375 spot, we've got it in 15 and looks like 9 channel mode. So yes, we've got that. Yep, we've got that, and we've even got all the gobos for it as well. Is there a way to take an MA3 patch with 3D data and move it? At this point, there isn't a way to take an MA3 patch. We're hoping to look at implementing, people call it GDTF, but it's MVR, which is my virtual rig. We're hoping to implement that way of importing, exporting files into L8, but it's a very new protocol. But we're hoping to see that functionality implemented. Right now you can't take a file as far as I know, but you know, give us time. MA3 is very, very new. So who wants to dance? I'm confused by that. Eriton Alien Pics. Yeah, we've definitely got that. I think. I have seen it in the library. Alien. Yep, Alien Pics. We've got it in 3 different forms. Looks like it's missing a bit. Now I do know why that is. So some fixtures that are uniquely complex come in under this special multi-part thing, so we can see that the dream panel is one of them. This is because of the way that they've been built. They require a little bit of extra love and TLC. So in the same way we brought that in, we can bring other fixtures in. So I think, yep, now we've got control of the Alien Pics, and I suspect that it's got infinite pan and tilt by the look of it. I've never used one, but there you go. There it is doing its thing, and we'll put it in blue just for the fun of it. Does it have the Martin Color Pro 400 or a classic 518? Yeah, we've got a 518. We've definitely got a 518. I remember putting a 518 in when we did a certain venue in Melbourne. What about multi effect fixtures? For instance, does it have a flower effect when you visualize the spider? Not currently. We can't do that. I'll come back to your question, Paul, because we do. Let's see what we've got in terms of the Plutos. I think we've got some of them, and if not, someone will be requesting. So yep, Silver Star Pluto. We've got, looks like the 800 and the 2000. So we'll bring the 800 in. And Paul's question of, can we do custom gobos? We definitely can do custom gobos. So the way that we handle that is I'll grab a Viper. Martin Viper performance profile, perfect. And then if we go into browse, constructor, and we find the gobo wheel, we can see we've got a bunch of patterns here. So if I go gobo, we can pick from all of these, or I can bring in my own image. So let's bring in, you know, the LA8 logo, and then we go save. And what we can do is we can take this fixture and we can also put it in the database so that it becomes a unique fixture. But right now, if we go quickly out of here, grab the fixture, give it some intensity, we should be able to hunt and find that gobo that I just put in it. Yep, there is a quote-unquote custom gobo. So we'll chuck it on that wall over there, zoom it down obviously. That would be because I've still got the focus locked on it. That's also a very long throw that I'm doing, by the way. But we can focus it up, and if I was smart enough I could probably also rotate it There we go. See? Custom gobo. Alright, we've got time for one more question. Does anyone have any final questions or fixtures or anything that you want to see in LA? Obviously, again, if you're in Melbourne, Australia, feel free to reach out. Or if you're in the Asia Pacific, feel free to reach out for a quote or just a question. You know, despite only servicing Australia Pacific and the US occasionally, it's always good to you know, reach out and learn a bit more and answer questions and, you know, learn more about the product. There are a couple of things that that are working in the back end, and I assure you that this is definitely not a program that is going away or anything. Thanks for the demo, man. We're looking at upgrade once the dollars start rolling in again. No worries, Benny. Pleasure to have you on the stream. Hopefully everyone has sort of enjoyed themselves. It's been good, you know, going through all the versions. And as I said, this everything that was built here was built in L8 directly. Obviously, we could have brought in a file if we wanted to, quite flawlessly, but from, you know, Vectorworks or whatever. But I chose to build it directly in the software because it's kind of nice to be able to point at everything and go, with the hardware and software that you've got, you can build this. So anyway, that looks like it's going to be the end of the stream. Can you map video? So, Skeptron. Oh, that's a tough question, Matt Doherty. Currently, there is a limitation in L8. We are limited to fixtures that consume one universe. That is looking to be changed. Currently, there is Skeptron in the library, but it's only DMX controlled. You can't do the P3 protocol yet, and again, if they did, that'd be the first visualizer to do it. But it's not implemented currently, and it's not on the roadmap, but, you know, maybe put in a feature request. But not currently, no. You're kind of limited to DMX control. But you could, you know, you could virtualize it by using just a very strippy LED screen like we were building before at the back. Thank you everyone for coming out. Anyway, my name is Alex Hughes. There's going to be obviously a recording. Skeptron is not a favourite fixture. I dislike the P3 protocol, but for reasons that you know. But it does work seamlessly and it goes together and it looks pretty, I'll give you that. Anyway, thank you for coming and hanging out with me, I appreciate it. The stream's been really good. We're aiming to do a lot more of this, so please do subscribe to the Console Training YouTube channel. We're going to be doing more of these. And we're also going to be doing more stuff on MA. I mean, we've alluded to the control and the capacity that we've got to manipulate the MA, and this was a stream that was geared toward L8 rather than MA, but we now have a streaming setup here that everything that we do here on these screens now appears on stream. So it's going to make training and all that kind of stuff much easier. Thanks everyone.